Good to have you all. I am Adesua Omorowan.
I'm Rufai Hussaini. Great to see you, Adesua.
And I'm Sheto Atigari. Good morning.
All right, it's a pleasure. Nigeria is currently going through a new wave of regional security formations across the geopolitical zones in the country.
Indeed. While many concerned Nigerians have commended the initiative of the Southwest governors, Sheikh Afasa and actually Amotekun, beg your pardon, and enjoined the leaders of the other regions to speed up their own process of establishing similar security outfits. This trend to some other Nigerians is unfortunate because it might snowball into something that will be of grave consequence to the nation in the long run.
That's right. Some critics say that it portends great danger in the future if not properly regulated and controlled, while others do believe that it is also necessary and expedient because of the daunting security challenges facing the nation at the moment.
Joining us now is Roy Okhidievbie, retired military personnel security expert and group CEO, August I. Great to have you. You know, I'm excited you're here today because we talked about it the last time and we foresaw some of these challenges together. But the way it is now, it looks as though that the Inspector General of Police has stepped in and said, you know what, we need to do this the right way. Anyway, we had an existing protocol that was a community policing regime that was on that we've been talking about. So let's just fit this under it. I mean, does this serve the purpose of what the people want originally?
Well, let us not first of all ascribe penalties to those that it should go to. You see, in security, there's timeliness of action. Once you delay timeliness of action, you will lose life or you will lose properties. All this while, from last time to this time, a lot of people have died. A lot of people have been kidnapped. Yes. A lot of communities have been ravaged. A lot of national image has been bastardized. A lot of insults to the voters' credibility, the vote casted under violence has been put to shame by these people that hold the aims of affairs in government. So we cannot just come and say, we said it, hello. We have lost some lives. Some people's future has been truncated. So in security issues, there must be timeliness to action because criminality is in dynamics in every fora and every trend. So today they kidnap this way, the next day you put it on the media, so-and-so person was kidnapped, he was called out of a party, come and move your car, and he was kidnapped. Tomorrow they don't use that trend anymore. And the agencies are still working with that trend. So you have to move in trickles or above the criminals. And the government people that should take the decision for environmental security, regional security, national security, they should be seen to be above board, especially in strategy and timeliness. So we should take some time to just think about what we have lost. It's not a joke. We have lost lives and so many people have lost their future.
It's interesting that you said you've made mention of timeliness because what we were expecting was that the bills would be passed into law in these different states by February 14th. Some people were even saying it should be the Valentine's gift to these states. However, we're still seeing some of these states lagging behind in signing it. As of this morning, it's actually been said that the 24th of February, some of them are going to have to come off recess to focus on passing the bill into law. Now, looking at the body language of the state assemblies as well as these governors, do you think that there's some lackadaisical behavior there in regards to what you said about timeliness?
Yeah, there is. And I like your analysis. Let's use the word lackadaisical. You see, in politics, I have an MSc in International Relations and Politics also. There is this activity that goes on to undo and outdo one another against intra-party, against other parties. But I like it when the party is doing it, not the elected officers. The elected officers should focus on governance. Once you have been thrown into office, you have been given the staff of office. So when all those intra-party distractions are going on, they should resist the temptation to allow it incur into governance. Because it's not only going to truncate the voters' rights, it's not only going to truncate all the party promises, it's going to prepare us for uncomfortable situations when criminality sets in. Okay, if you look at Lackadaisical, while we are at this now, while the Attorney General have said, okay, let's put in the law, while the head of the police, the IG, has said, okay, let's give it credibility, we are now hearing that the chief of staff and the senior security advisor are having their own intricacies right now. That's another distraction. You will be shocked that everybody will forget about this, setting this regional security in the right track, and now going back to say, why is the chief of staff and the senior security advisor having problem? Lackadaisical attitude is when you don't put the masses before your personal interest, before your party interest, before your religious interest, ethnic interest. All of those interests are those things that create the lackadaisical attitude, because you need to consult before you do certain things. You need to consult the party chairman. The system of politics in Nigeria has created these dastardly opportunities for criminals to ravage at one time. So we need to review our political processes. Do I need to consult my party chairman if I'm on seat as a governor, as a sitting governor? Do I need to look at ethnic, religious, or other political issues if I want to deliver governance? So if you are lackadaisical, it's because there are some things that are cooling off your heels not to act. And it's dangerous, especially in this insecurity situation we find ourselves. Don't forget, Cameroon is in crisis right now. We have close to 60,000 people in Cameroon running into Nigeria. Who will profile them when we cannot even profile ourselves? We can't profile Okada riders that are trooping from one end to the other. We can't use proper immigration databases and security technology situation systems to phantom who is a criminal from another state coming into Nigeria. So if we have all of this issue and we have this distraction going on, lackadaisical is the right word.
Let's talk about the potential of this security outfits we talk about, because some would say this is actually not the silver bullet. Amotekun, like many others before it, is not a regional security outfit. It is a complementary security initiative. But despite the efforts we have seen at different levels, we've had northern governors who are into deals with bandits, some sort of, carrot and stick approach. That hasn't stopped them. So when you look at all these efforts put on ground at various levels, it still seems as if we do not have a grasp of the security situation. What are we doing exactly wrongly?
The first thing that I would like to mention here is the right actors that will bring in the right components have been shielded out. Last week, throughout the last 2 weeks that I'm talking to you here, Dr. Onaekomu, one of the strongest and oldest and most vibrant security practitioners in West Africa, in the world, he's recognized. He begged and struggled and maneuvered his way into the Senate to go and give them reasonable arguments against the negativity of their reactions to insecurity. The Association of Licensed Private Security, as we speak, all CEOs of security companies in Nigeria, both man guarding and other kinds of security activities that you do, they gather themselves together. The ESCO had to find their way to the Senate to go and be talking to them about the components of the regional security and other security structures. Don't forget also that a document was just released recently, that this is the national security document. And that document has areas of paucity of ideas, paucity of solutions, paucity of reasonable attention to the crisis that we belong to right now. Now, these people that are going there, what is wrong? If you want to have a regional security system, what is wrong to say all the people that retired from DSS, from this region, all the people that retired from the police, the immigration, the customs, go as low as the prisons, all of them that are ex-agency, army? Can we have a town hall meeting? Can we see your reasonable and logical imputes? can we put that together? Then what stops you to say our region, people that are loyal by blood, by birth, all those that are lawyers, sons, senior advocates of Nigeria, let's meet, let's put these security experts' ideas against the laws of the land and see how it can be palatable, and put this thing together and have it from our own. Now, it will fail. We said it last time, it will fail. Why? Because every region is a component of different states. In a state alone, the crisis within a state alone is enough to derail the attention of governors. Now, if you look at those states, it's my state, that's where I come from. The derail for governance in that state alone right now has truncated a lot of progressive activities that should have taken place. Now, if you join Edo State with Ondo, with Ogun State, while these kind of things are happening in Edo State, what attention will the governor have for regional activities? And
that's why a lot of people will argue with you that the concept of state policing in Nigeria is a farce. Some will argue for, some will argue against. And a great point in sight is Edo State. Yeah. If somebody had access to state police in Edo State, don't you think somebody will have upper hand in this political battle? Is that not what they're going to use it for in the end? So that's why a lot of people argue for and against, but most people argue against and say it's just going to be a tool in the hands of these people. In negation, in total negation of the security and the welfare of the citizens. So let's also talk about the political angle to this. We are not looking at that.
Let me tell you about that argument. That argument is arguing with what has not been put in place. Now, if I say, don't give this guy management of this studio, this guy that I say don't give the management of this studio is because he has not gotten all he needs to get to manage the studio. I have seen negativities in his action, downtimes in his action. Now, if you want to include state police, you must have a state, sir. Most of the states we have in Nigeria are not to that category that you call a state. They can't pay their staffs, they can't run the medicals, they can't run the educational sector, they can't run integrity in the rule of law.
So some states in Nigeria are semi-state.
They have not gotten to that level that you now say you should have a state police. It is a process. Look at Lagos. Let's use Lagos.
But they do get state allocations.
Yes, so they get those things. That is what I'm talking. I talked about integrity.
I talked about it's the case of the mismanagement of the handlers of the state.
So if you are mismanaging, you don't have a state. A state is a coordinated body, an entity that runs the affairs for the masses, put them on good education, academics, health sector, good roads, law and order. Now, when you don't have that, you can't have state police. Because if you have state police and you can't pay them, then you can't pay teachers for 6 months. They still grumble and go to school. They still collect money from the children. If you can't pay the police that have guns in their hands, then you have created another banditry, another anarchy. So we need to have this growth pattern. Like you have the Lagos State Security System, you now have people buying into it. They are growing. You have LASMA trying to support the Federal Road Safety Corps. You have some other people trying to support the traffic wardens. Then you are generating them into a level where you can now say, we are endorsing this because we can fund it, we can motivate them, and they have the rule of law to operate. But if you cannot have that, then you can't have state police.
We'll go for a quick break. We'll come back and we'll talk more. All right, welcome back. Still having great conversations here on the morning show right here on the Rise News. I mean, we're having this big conversation about, with Mr. Roy, and we still have Mr. Roy Okhidievbie here. We're having this big conversation about the conversation on state police and the reason why it won't work. I just want you were making a point, very strong point, that we only say that when it suits us. Look at the case of the federal police. I mean, I don't know if you want to further that in your questioning as well.
No, we're just talking about you know, the effectiveness and the potentials of this security outfits we're seeing springing up in every part of the country. The last meeting with the IGP and the Southeast governors, they did refine and change nomenclature to say it's not regional, because we really do not have regional laws, but state laws. And they have backed down now to say, okay, we're going to have community policing. Is that the answer? Rufai said, state police will be abused, and I'm saying, even the federal police, isn't it being abused?
Well, what you guys are just doing now is like, I will be the jury. Because the arguments coming from high profile...
They're being abused.
Now, let me tell you something. If we have a legal system that is effective, if we have interagency control measures that are effective,
which we don't have,
then if we have agency heads that came on board the seats from the hierarchy system of the agency, not that a political head will just say, okay, you are IG, then every other person that is his senior have to resign. Okay, you are chief of army staff. There are processes in the army to get the chief of army staff. There are processes to get an IG in the police. Now, if you have that, then you begin to see where the agencies are failing. Can we set that up properly first? Once you can set it up, you will now know what complementary measures that you need. If you have a police system that does not have a police training school, if you have a police system that does not have contents that are consistent with prevalent trend in their curriculum of training, if you have a police system that the training does not expose them to the use of technology and practice does not expose them to the use of technology. Because when you even take them abroad to train them, what they use to train abroad, they come here, they don't see it. So many of them were trained in forensics. When you see a crime scene, everybody runs into the crime scene and start taking pictures. Civilians are doing videos and all of that. So we have to look at empowering, strengthening what we have. It is until you have done that that you will now say, how do we complement this? Now, if you want to complement it, if you go and get state police now and give it to a governor to control, my sister, if the governor cannot pay his teachers, those are the areas you should look at. If the governor cannot pay his staff, if the governor is not disciplined to rule of law, he is not supposed to have that opportunity.
How many people are in this country?
Excuse me, sir.
How many governors are in this country?
Yes, excuse me.
Can you measure how many governors are?
I'm not in the right position to tell you how many governors have integrity in Nigeria. That is not something that this panel can achieve. You need to have a lot of professionals here that will look at different intricacies in their operational ability. So let's come down to what we can do. We have to say right now that if you give a governor a role model states, we can have state by state. In America, in other Western countries, it's not every agency that operates in every state. Some states have rangers. But in states that are bordered with water, they don't need forest rangers. So in Nigeria, a state that has come on board, that has shown integrity and discipline, for that tenure, must put in place documents to say this cannot be truncated in the next 16 years. This cannot be truncated even if another party governor comes in. Then you need the judiciary to sit down. The US president today, his major attackers are the judiciary. You will hear one justice, one magistrate will say this cannot be done, this cannot be done, and bring up reasonable arguments. So we need judiciary in Nigeria to be able to say this thing you have brought is good, but even if a governor comes from APC, PDP, SDP, whatever, in the next 16 years, this thing needs to run and be funded with these documented intricacies. And we must have it. So that judicial system stands against that. Then you will see that you are compelled to follow through because the judiciary is watching. So if there's no judiciary to watch and the executive makes the law and executes the law, who will penalize defaulters? And that is where you see everybody goes home. We talked about this Wadume case the other time. We talked about Evans' case the other time. Well, so many others are looking them as role model now. Kidnapping is now at the quantum. So if you don't have the judiciary coming on board, be disciplined to keep the rule of law, then, madam, you cannot have a state that will be a role model for policing. So community policing is like a step down to say, since they can't do it, let's do it ourselves. Because we'll not be armed, we'll just be working on intelligence. When we work on intelligence as community police, when we give it to the executive to execute, they give it to the judiciary to execute. You see the guy walking on the street the next day. After painstakingly the whole community have gathered evidence against this guy, you see him walking on the street the next day. Why? No reasonable evidence to penalize.
Okay, let's take it back to the formation of this regional security outfits. In Ekiti, for example, the Nigerian Bar Association has come out and advocating that there be a compulsory psychiatric test for the operatives of Amotekun in all 6 states. And they came out to say that subjecting these recruits to such exercise would inject sanity into the modus operandi of their operations. I want to know what your take on this is. And my second question to you is, you had spoken about interagency relations and the fact that there needs to be fresh solutions brought into tackling insecurity in our nation. There has been the call for the sack of the service chiefs. I'm just curious to know what your take on that is.
Okay, that's about 3 questions. No, let's come about the tests.
Yes.
Now, in private security, when we employ security men, we are sure not to take a drunkard, especially those that you see the telltale signs, even if there is no odor or aroma. You know, then we are also sure to check to see that he can read and write. We don't want to know if maybe you have a school cert or not. You can read and write. Because people buy school cert now in Nigeria. They buy degrees now in Nigeria. And they go in as deputy governors and all that. Up to the Senate minister was seen not to have an NYSC certificate. I do background check a lot. So I see a lot of records that are also fake. Now, if we need to check that, then scientifically, we must check to see that it does not have mental imbalance. Because that's another key area where you see armed people go. You remember when the Nigerian military, a soldier would just go in and shoot so many people, or there was just a small argument and shoot, even in police. Yes. So you have to check mental imbalance. You have to do a drug test. A drug test. And that drug test must be like in intervals of like 3 months to 2 months. So it's just a small device that you use, just take a swab and you use and you test. Even traffic men use it abroad to test if you are on alcohol. Then apart from that, you are going to need to do a test on your previous employment, your previous characteristics. Now, if you have that in place, who is going to control? The control is key. The monitoring is key. If you carry all the soldiers that have awards today, put them in Ikoyi here, there is no monitoring, no control. You even see them collecting taxes from buses on the road. So while that man was saying, NBA was saying, do drug tests, do psychiatric tests, there's a lot of other tests that need to be done, and they must be done. But no matter what test you have done, you need monitoring, you need supervision, and you need the people you are monitoring and supervising to be highly motivated.
The service chief's question. She was asking what you take
for the sack of the service chiefs.
Okay, I said something in another media. Now, I'm a retired military personnel, okay? There are people that are going through depot Nigerian Army. They come out as non-commissioned officers. There are people that go through the Nigerian Defense Academy. They come out as commissioned officers. While in the Army, I see the hierarchy and the discipline. If they bagger you in the academy for 5 years, you come out with a level of grudge against that senior that was doing that bagger. You know, so when you saw the other officer that soldiers ran away with his money and they brought him on wheelchair, the lawyer was saying the officer that want to judge the case cannot judge the case because he's biased, that they have hatred among themselves. All officers that came out through NDA might have some level of bias against one another because of the discipline level that you go through from your seniors. Now, if you sit on the seat as the chief of army staff, as the chief of naval staff, as the chief of air staff, beyond the approved tenure, you will not know the trickling effects that you have pressed down some other key officers that are supposed to rise up to that place because their retirement tenure is quickly approaching. So they need to see that they have disciplined themselves from second lieutenant to a general, and they need to sit on that seat. It's the morale that keeps the troops going and say this Oga will be our chief of army staff. And lo and behold, he's due for retirement. The one there, somebody is saying he should not leave. Whatever you are proffering as a chief of staff, you are doing it collectively with the whole of the Nigerian Navy, especially the highest officer clique. Whatever you are proffering as chief of army staff, you are doing too with all of the military intelligence. So you are not the lone provider of the solution. You are a key presenter of the solution. So once it's your time to leave, you must leave, or else the other people will not be motivated. And before you know it, that trickling effect will demoralize them.
Mr. Roy, hold on. We do have some breaking news coming in.
Yes. The Supreme Court has adjourned the application hearing of Emeka Ihedioha to March 2nd. As of this moment, it's been adjourned to March 2nd.
The wait is on.
Hoping to see or hear something on the Supreme Court today.
Ihedioha is the People's Democratic Party candidate in the governorship election. He was sworn in and sacked by the Supreme Court barely 6 months after. Very quickly, Mr. Roy, before we let you go, you did mention earlier that this was a distraction, talking about the leaked memo in the presidency. As a civilian and a citizen, this connotes for me that there's no central command. There is the dereliction of duty from the CNC, and you say it's a distraction? Very quickly, in 20 seconds.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Thank you. You know, there is what we call implosion. You see, an implosion is when you keep a closed knit and there are intricacies there that need to blow out. That is what you are seeing now. And I think it's a good one for the country. Because if there are things at that level that are going uncovered and untold, it's going to be very detrimental to our security system. So once that memo has come out and people are coming out to say, I don't like what this man's doing, I don't like what this man is doing, they should put their acts together.
All right,
okay, we'd like to say a very big thank you to you as always.